The quiet ones. Why still waters run deep. Be careful of the quiet ones. When they finally speak up, it's like watching a hurricane hit. This phrase, circulating through social media and everyday conversations, holds a profound truth that most of us have experienced at some point. That unsettling feeling when we meet someone who radiates an unnatural calm, but we sense that beneath that serene surface lies something powerful, something that prefers to remain dormant. Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung, who passed away in 1961, dedicated much of his research to understanding these human archetypes. Jung discovered a recurring pattern in humanity. Those people who have been chosen by extreme circumstances, profound pain or transformative experiences, develop a calm that isn't the absence of strength, but rather absolute concentration of power. In his studies of the collective unconscious, Jung identified that these individuals function as channels for archetypal energies that transcend ordinary human experience. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognizes this truth. I invite you to subscribe to our channel, because what you're about to discover about the chosen ones will forever change your perception of true human strength. God's chosen ones aren't mystical figures from fairy tales. They're real people walking among us, forged in the fire of experiences that would break others. From a psychological perspective, these individuals have developed what experts call post-traumatic resilience, but their transformation goes far beyond simple survival. They've experienced what psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, described as the ability to find meaning in absolute suffering. Universal spirituality recognizes these beings as old souls who have chosen to incarnate in this dimension to fulfill specific purposes. In mystical traditions, they're known as warriors of light, who have accepted the burden of carrying dense experiences to transmute them into wisdom. Their calm isn't weakness, it's the result of having stared into the abyss and returned transformed, carrying with them the survival codes that can only be obtained in the depths of the human soul. Today I'll reveal 7 truths about why these seemingly silent beings are, in reality, dangerously strong. And I'll tell you something in advance. The final truth will impact you so deeply that you'll never again underestimate a quiet person. 7th truth. Their silence is strategy, not submission. While others shout to be heard, the chosen ones have learned that the most powerful words are those kept until the precise moment. It's not about shyness or lack of opinion. It's emotional intelligence at its highest expression. They've understood that every word has weight, every silence has purpose. Jung observed in his patients that those who had traversed great traumas developed what he called wisdom of silence. These individuals didn't participate in trivial discussions because they had seen the fragility of human existence. Their silence isn't empty. It's the space where they process, evaluate, and decide when it's worth investing their energy. Modern neuroscience has confirmed what Jung intuited. The brains of people who have experienced profound transformations show unique activity patterns. Areas related to contemplation and introspection are hyperdeveloped, while centers of impulsive reaction show considerably reduced activity. This means their silence isn't passivity, but active processing of complex information. In the workplace, they're those employees who don't participate in office gossip, but when they speak in a meeting, everyone falls silent to listen. Their presence communicates an authority that doesn't need titles or external recognition. In family relationships, they're the members who remain quiet during heated discussions, but whose opinion, when finally expressed, changes the course of the entire conversation. The chosen ones understand that silence is a language in itself. They can communicate more with a look than others can with 1,000 words. They've developed the ability to read between the lines, to capture nonverbal messages that reveal people's true intentions. Their strategic silence allows them to observe behavioral patterns that go unnoticed by those busy talking constantly. 6th. Truth. They've transformed their pain into unbreakable wisdom. The chosen ones weren't born with that supernatural calm. They forged it on the anvil of suffering. Every emotional wound, every betrayal, every devastating loss became a lesson they engraved on their soul with fire. This process of emotional alchemy is what differentiates them from those who remain trapped in cycles of victimization. The difference between the chosen ones and ordinary people doesn't lie in the amount of pain they've experienced, but in how they've processed it. Transpersonal psychology explains this phenomenon as elevated post-traumatic growth, where the individual not only recovers from trauma, but reaches levels of functioning and wisdom superior to what they had before the painful experience. While others become bitter or cynical, the chosen ones extracted wisdom from every painful experience. Their internal process functions like an alchemical laboratory, where they transform emotional lead into spiritual gold. This capacity isn't innate. It's consciously developed through years of inner work, meditation, self-observation, and a conscious decision not to allow pain to define them. Eastern spiritual traditions describe this process as transmuting poison into medicine. In Tibetan Buddhism, there's the concept of taking and giving, where the practitioner consciously absorbs suffering to transform it into compassion. The chosen ones perform this process naturally, though often without being conscious of the magnitude of their inner work. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's an alchemical process that can take decades, where each painful experience becomes another layer of wisdom. That's why their presence is so powerful. They radiate the security of someone who has walked through the valley of shadows and returned stronger, carrying emotional maps that can guide others in their own transformation processes. Science has begun studying this phenomenon through epigenetics, discovering that traumatic experiences followed by deep healing processes can activate genes related to resilience, elevated empathy, and increased intuition. The chosen ones literally reconfigure their DNA through their transformation processes. Fifth, truth. Their energy is magnetic because it's authentic. In a world full of masks and performances, the chosen ones stand out for their brutal authenticity. They don't try to impress anyone because they've already impressed themselves by surviving the impossible. This authenticity generates an invisible magnetic field that attracts genuine people and repels false ones. Their energy is like an emotional lie detector. Narcissists, manipulators, and toxic people feel uncomfortable in their presence because their very existence exposes the falseness of others. They don't need to say anything. Their authentic energy makes masks become transparent. It's as if they radiate a frequency of truth that makes it impossible to maintain superficial facades. Quantum physics is beginning to explain this phenomenon through the concept of morphogenetic fields. The chosen ones emit an energetic coherence that affects the quantum field surrounding them. Their authenticity isn't just a personality trait, it's a vibrational frequency that influences the environment and people around them. This authenticity also makes them natural healers. Wounded people feel attracted to them because they recognize in their energy the possibility of real transformation. The chosen ones become, without trying, beacons of hope for those still struggling in darkness. Their presence communicates a silent but powerful message. If I could overcome it, you can too. In interpersonal relationships, this authenticity creates deep and lasting connections. They don't tolerate superficiality because they've experienced the depths of the human soul. When they establish bonds, these tend to be transformative for both parties. Their ability to see beyond social masks allows them to connect with people's real essence. Fourth truth, their patience has divine limits. The patience of the chosen ones isn't infinite, it's calculated and sacred. They've learned to give opportunities, to wait, to allow others to show their true nature. But this patience comes accompanied by an invisible line that, once crossed, unleashes consequences few can imagine. It's not about revenge. It's about divine justice manifesting through a human being who has been purified by the fire of experience. Their patience is calibrated by wisdom, not weakness. They can endure enormous amounts of pressure because they understand that most negative behaviors from others come from unhealed pain. When that patience is exhausted, they don't explode with screams or physical violence. Their response is much more devastating. They withdraw completely, taking with them all the light, peace, and blessing their presence brought. It's as if they remove an invisible energetic pillar that kept the environment where they operated in balance. Jung described this phenomenon as the withdrawal of the healer archetype. When the healer withdraws, the chaos their presence kept at bay begins to manifest. People who abuse their patience discover too late that it wasn't weakness that kept them close, but grace. The difference becomes evident when that grace is withdrawn and unfiltered reality manifests. Studies in social psychology have documented this pattern. When a person with high emotional containment capacity withdraws from a group or system, the dysfunction their presence balanced emerges with multiplied force. Projects that functioned fall apart, relationships that seemed stable fracture, dynamics that remained harmonious explode into conflicts. Spirituality explains this phenomenon through the concept of withdrawal of divine presence. In many traditions, it's taught that certain beings function as channels for higher energies that bless and balance the spaces they inhabit. When these people withdraw, that blessing goes with them, exposing the true nature of the environment. Their patience is a gift not everyone deserves, and the chosen ones have learned to discern who deserves their energy and who is simply draining it without intention of growth or reciprocity. Tharna's third truth: they're spiritual warriors disguised as lambs. The physical appearance of the chosen ones can be completely deceiving. Many of them don't look like warriors in the traditional sense. They may be people of average height, soft voice, delicate gestures. But they've fought battles in dimensions others cannot even imagine. They've battled the deepest depression and emerged victorious. They've faced paralyzing anxiety and mastered it. They've risen from betrayals that would have completely destroyed others. They've lost loved ones in devastating circumstances and found the strength to move forward, not just surviving, but flourishing. Each of these battles has turned them into elite spiritual warriors. The fundamental difference is that their battles aren't fought on physical battlefields, but in the most dangerous terrain that exists, the depths of the human psyche. They've descended into their own personal hells and returned with the master keys of transformation. Their weapon isn't physical violence, but the unbreakable mental fortitude they've developed through facing their internal demons. They can maintain calm in situations that would make others collapse because they've developed emotional muscles that most people don't even know exist. Their tranquility in the middle of the storm isn't ignorance. It's mastery acquired through having navigated much more intense storms in the solitude of their own transformation process. Neuroscientists have discovered that the brains of people who have traversed multiple deep transformation processes show unique characteristics. Areas related to emotional regulation are hyper-developed, while centers of fear and automatic reaction show reduced activity. They've literally reconfigured their neurology through their internal battles. In Eastern martial traditions, there's the concept of the invisible warrior, one who has reached such a level of mastery that they don't need to demonstrate their power because their mere presence communicates absolute authority. The chosen ones embody this archetype on the spiritual and emotional plane. If you've identified with any of these truths so far, leave me a comment telling me which of these situations you've lived. Your experience can help others understand they're not alone on this path of transformation and that what they've experienced has a higher purpose than they initially imagined. Second truth: their intuition is tuned to divine frequencies. The chosen ones have developed a perception capacity that goes beyond the traditional 5 senses. They can read energies like others read newspapers, detect lies effortlessly, and sense people's real intentions before they reveal them with words or actions. This capacity isn't paranormal in the traditional mystical sense. It's the result of having paid attention to human patterns during years of silent observation combined with elevated emotional sensitivity. While others talk constantly, They observe micro-expressions, voice tones, body language, and energetic patterns. While others react emotionally automatically, they analyze and process subtle information. Neuroscience has begun explaining this phenomenon through the study of mirror neurons and expanded theory of mind. The chosen ones have developed a hyper-connected neural network that allows them to process emotional and social information with almost surgical precision. Their nervous system has been calibrated to capture subtle signals that go unnoticed by most. This constant observation and deep processing has fine-tuned their intuition until it becomes a precision instrument. They can predict behaviors based on patterns they've observed, anticipate betrayals because they recognize early signals, and detect opportunities others don't see because their perspective encompasses dimensions normally ignored. Their intuition functions like a high-tech emotional radar. They can enter a room and within minutes map the relational dynamics, identify who's lying, who's suffering in silence, who has hidden intentions, and who is genuinely authentic. This capacity often makes them natural confidants because people feel they truly see and understand them. Eastern spiritual traditions describe this state as clear vision or discriminative wisdom. In Hinduism, it's known as viveka, the ability to discern between the real and the illusory, between the essential and the superficial. The chosen ones have developed this faculty not through esoteric practices, but through the necessity of emotional survival. That's why they often seem to know things they shouldn't know or react to situations before they fully manifest. Their intuition processes information at speeds that surpass conscious rational analysis, allowing them to access conclusions that would take others months to reach through logical thinking. First, truth. The chosen ones carry others' emotional weight without anyone noticing. And we come to the first and most impactful truth. The chosen ones carry the emotional weight of others without anyone realizing it. This is the truth I promised would impact you, because it's the most common and most ignored by those surrounding the chosen ones, and because it reveals the most sacrificial dimension of their existence. Imagine for a moment that quiet person at your work, in your family, in your circle of friends. The one who's always there when you need them, who listens without judging, who offers comfort without asking for anything in return. What you don't see is that every time you unload your problems on that person, they absorb and process them along with their own. It's not a metaphor. It's a real energetic process that occurs at the quantum level. The chosen ones have become, without consciously asking for it, emotional processors for those around them. They arrive home carrying not only their own challenges, but the anxieties of their co-workers, their friends' depressions, their family members' fears, their partners' frustrations. Their emotional containment capacity is so great that others, unconsciously, deposit their heaviest burdens on them. Transpersonal psychology has begun studying this phenomenon under the name extreme empathic absorption. Researchers have discovered that certain individuals possess an emotional permeability that literally allows them to absorb others' emotional states. This capacity, which under normal circumstances would be considered a vulnerability, in the chosen ones becomes a tool of unconscious service. This is why they need so much silence, so much space, so much apparent solitude. It's not antisocial, it's emotional survival. They need time to process and cleanse all the dense energy they've absorbed during the day. Their apparent need for isolation is actually a process of energetic purification they perform instinctively. Their calm is, literally, the result of constant internal work of emotional transmutation. They function as living filters that take chaotic and dense energy from the environment and process it until converting it into peace. It's Herculean work they perform 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without rest and without recognition. In shamanic traditions, these individuals would be recognized as community healers, people who have the natural capacity to absorb and transmute the group's emotional illnesses. In the modern world, this function goes completely unnoticed and is even misinterpreted as weakness or unlimited availability. And here's the most impactful and devastating aspect. When they finally collapse, when all that containment reaches its absolute limit, the explosion isn't just the release of their own accumulated frustration, it's the instantaneous return of all the negative energy they've been processing for others for months, years, or even decades. It's as if they return, in one concentrated moment, all the pain, anxiety, chaos, and dysfunction they've been filtering and purifying. Imagine a water filter that for years has been purifying contaminated water, and suddenly, all that accumulated contamination is released at once. The impact is devastating, not only because of the quantity, but because of the concentration. That's why the phrase, "when they finally speak up, it's like watching a hurricane hit," is so accurate, because they're literally returning to the world everything the world has deposited in them, but magnified by the pressure of prolonged containment. It's not their individual anger, it's the collective anger they've been processing on behalf of others. Jung understood this when he wrote about the archetype of the sacred scapegoat. The chosen ones fulfill, without knowing it, this ancestral function of emotional purifiers of their community. They absorb chaos to maintain harmony, process darkness to preserve light, carry the weight so others can walk lighter. The deepest tragedy is that most people not only don't recognize this silent sacrifice but take it for granted. They see the calm of the chosen ones and assume it's ease of life, when in reality it's the result of Herculean internal work they perform day after day, without recognition, without rest, without complaint. When a chosen one finally establishes boundaries or withdraws to protect their energy, they're often labeled as selfish or antisocial. The irony is brutal. The person who has been sacrificing their emotional well-being for others' well-being is criticized when they finally decide to care for themselves. Relationships with the chosen ones require a level of consciousness and reciprocity that many people aren't prepared to offer. It's not that they're demanding, it's that they've learned through pain that their energy is finite and sacred, and that it deserves to be protected and valued. Science is beginning to confirm what spiritual traditions always knew, that there's a real transfer of energy between human beings. Studies in bioelectromagnetism show that one person's heart electromagnetic fields can influence another's, especially when there's an intense emotional connection. The chosen ones have developed particularly coherent and powerful electromagnetic fields as a result of their inner work. This coherence acts as a magnet for others' chaotic energies, attracting them toward themselves to be processed and transmuted. It's an automatic process that occurs without conscious control. Understanding this truth completely changes the perspective on the chosen ones. They're no longer simply quiet or reserved people. They're living processes of collective dysfunction, silent transformers who maintain their environment's emotional balance at the cost of their own energy. Their withdrawal isn't abandonment, it's sacred self-preservation. Their silence isn't indifference, it's energetic recovery. Their apparent coldness isn't lack of love, it's protection of a system that has been overloaded for too long. If you know someone like this in your life, if you recognize yourself in this description, I want you to know something fundamental. That apparent calm isn't weakness. It's the external symbol of an inner strength that few human beings manage to develop. It's the visible manifestation of a soul that has been tempered in the fire of experience and has emerged as spiritual steel. The chosen ones aren't dangerous because they're violent or aggressive. They're dangerous because they represent what human beings can become when they transcend suffering instead of being destroyed by it. They're dangerous because their very existence challenges the excuses others use to justify their emotional mediocrity. They're dangerous to the established order of complaint, victimization, and drama because they demonstrate that another way of existing is possible. A way where real power isn't manifested through screams, but through silence charged with purpose. A way where true strength isn't demonstrated by dominating others, but by mastering oneself. They're dangerous to those who take advantage of others' goodness because their presence exposes the difference between genuine need and emotional manipulation. Their refined discernment can instantly detect who seeks real help and who seeks to drain energy without intention of growth. But perhaps most dangerous of all is that the chosen ones represent the possibility of real transformation. In a world addicted to drama and victimization, their peaceful but powerful existence suggests there's another way to live, a way that requires inner work, personal responsibility, and the courage to look inward instead of blaming outward. I invite you to reflect deeply on these truths. Subscribe to our channel to continue exploring these themes that touch the deepest fibers of the human soul. Give it a like if these words resonated in your heart, and share your experience in the comments, because your story might be the light someone else needs to understand their own path. The chosen ones walk among us, carrying invisible worlds on their shoulders, maintaining cosmic balance with their powerful silence. The next time you encounter someone like this, remember, you're not facing weakness disguised as calm. You're facing divine strength that has chosen discretion as its highest form of expression. Their power doesn't need to be demonstrated because it demonstrates itself. Their strength doesn't require external validation because it has been validated in the most difficult battlefields that exist, the depths of the human soul. And their dangerousness doesn't lie in what they can do to others, but in what their example can awaken in those who are ready for their own transformation.